invite you, as the music plays, to close your eyes, relax, invoke the presence, and hold space.
Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. 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 Omega Dantaya Vidmahi Vakrajandaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. 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 Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Dayaniti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. 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 Om Vakratundaya Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvigyam Kuru Me Deva Sarva Karyeshu Sarvada. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Jai Ganesha Gananata Daya Niti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Daya Niti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. 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 Suklam Bharadram Vishnu Sasivarnam Chaturvujam Prasannavadaram Dhyaye Sarvavignyopashantaye. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Jai Ganesha Gananata Daya Niti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Jai Ganesha Gananata Daya Niti Sakala Vignya Karadura Hamari. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. 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 Om Ekadantaya Vidmahi Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Gam Ganapataye Namo Namaha. Namo Namaha. Namo Namaha. Namo Namaha.
Namaste. Welcome to our weekly online Satsang. Satsang being a Sanskrit word that means community of truth. It's wherever two or more people come together that are on the path of awakening and the flowering of the heart, pursuing the truth, living the truth, discovering the truth. That's a Satsang. And the Flowering Heart Satsang includes people from many different countries and continents from around the world. We come from different faith traditions, have different teachers and teachings. What we have in common is we're all in the process of awakening and the flowering of our hearts in oneness with the divine. So, welcome, glad you're here. We need to come together, those of us who are on the path, more than ever, with the condition of the world being consumed with competition, conflict, war, greed, selfishness. We need to birth a new world rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace. And it doesn't come through philosophical or political movements or religious movements. It comes through the authentic spiritual awakening of the human heart. So, that's what we're about. To awaken, help awaken as many people as quickly as we can, to help nudge the collective consciousness of humanity toward a global shift in consciousness. We see a day where people are going to wake up in the morning and go, what have I been doing? That's crazy. I don't need these weapons of destruction, you know? And all of that competition and conflict and violence will just melt into cooperation, harmony, peace, and love. It needs to happen on a global level. It's happening one person at a time at a faster rate than any other period I'm aware of in human history. There are more people awakening now, in spite of people calling this the Dark Age and the end of the Kali Yuga, and whatever you want to call it. So many people are awakening and discovering their essential divinity and oneness with the divine source. And it's a beautiful thing. There's so many of us now throughout the world who are awakening. I don't see any way it could be stopped. And it transcends religion, it transcends, all that other stuff, politics and philosophies, geopolitical boundaries. One of the wonderful things about the internet is how we can reach out and connect like this in the presence. It's so beautiful. We share during these webcasts the Flowering Heart Blessing, which is a direct transference of divine grace and consciousness directly from Source to catalyze awakening from the illusion of duality and separate existence, to awaken us into the living experience of oneness with each other, with the divine, with all that exists. The Flowering Heart Blessing is a very powerful and blessed boon that we've been sharing for the last 8 years. We've been involved in many types of blessing over the years. This one is just really rung so deeply true because it goes right to the heart and awakens your connection, the center of your being, with the divine within you. And once you've received it, and guess what? If you're new to this, you're soaking in it right now. You're receiving it. If you like the energy, the space, the presence that we're sharing here tonight, then you are initiated just by receiving the Flowering Heart Blessing once. And you can just invite the divine to pour the blessing through you to anyone upon whom you lay your hands with their consent, knowing that this blessing is going to change them, or at a distance in prayer and meditation. But you could join us right now through the remainder of this webcast. And for all the people that join us here tonight, also for the many, many people, there are many times more people that will watch tonight's satsang between now and next Monday, who can't join us right now because of where they are, their time zone, their schedule, their responsibilities. And we always hold an intention for the blessings that flow through these satsangs to touch anyone that tunes in and watches it, however far in the future it is. For in spirit, There is no distance in time or space. It's all right here, right now. So, thank you for being right here, right now.
Whenever you're here.
I don't think we have any announcements.
No.
No? Wow. How cool. So we like to open it for a period of time after our silent meditation at the beginning to take questions about the spiritual journey, about awakening, about divine union, about meditation, previous lives, spiritual energies, anything that's on your mind, Kundalini, whatever you'd like more clarity and light, insight on, that will benefit everyone that tunes into the satsang, because while our journeys are unique and different, they're all parallel and similar in many ways. And we find as the journey continues that a lot of the things that we experience, the walls that we hit, the plateaus, the dips and the pitfalls, we all go through the same things, just in slightly different ways. So the answers to these questions, and the answers, you see, there are sometimes you'll ask a question and Suzanne and I are like, huh. And we turn to the divine presence, and the divine always fills us with inspiration and clarity to share with ourselves and everyone else. So, we've already got several, and we'll come right back to that, but I have some quotes tonight. I like to share quotes at this point in our webcast from a website called inspiringquotes.com. And am I going to do this one or the other one? Nope, I'm going to do the other one. Ha, surprise. 15 reasons to embrace being sensitive. And this is by an author. These little articles and collections of quotes are by a group of authors that work with inspiringquotes.com, or publish these brief articles and lists of quotes they collect from famous people, historical people, philosophers, mystics. This current one, Darren Orff, I don't think we've had one from him before. He lives in Portland, Oregon, and he has 2 cats, so that's in his favor. And he writes about science, technology, nature, and history. And here's what Darren says about sensitivity. No two people are exactly alike, and sensitivity, be it emotional or physical, is just one of the ways we can differ. Highly sensitive people feel emotions and sensations deeply and intensely. These sensitive souls may be more prone to cry at a movie or a beautiful vista. They may feel hurt or overwhelmed more easily, but are also quick to empathize with others and understand their feelings. The highly sensitive among us, or to the highly sensitive among us, this will sound very familiar. But the topic of sensitivity is one we're just starting to understand scientifically. In 1991, psychologist Elaine Aron began research into a trait known as, quote, sensory processing sensitivity, unquote, discerning that someone with increased sensitivity could be categorized as a, quote, highly sensitive person, unquote, or HSP. Believed to be anywhere from 15 to 20% of the population. HSPs not only feel emotions deeply, but also feel external stimuli, whether temperature, pain, hunger, or light, to a higher and sometimes overwhelming degree. Know any people like that? Although it may seem like a curse to feel things with this heightened intensity, many people acknowledge sensitivity as a strength, enabling a life of deep connection, creativity, and meaning. These 15 quotes shine a light on the sensitive souls among us and speak to the challenges and joys of living a highly sensitive life. So let's dive in. Here's our first quote. Beauty, of whatever kind, in its supreme development, invariably excites the sensitive soul to tears. Edgar Allan Poe. Sensitivity isn't about being wimpy. It's about being so painfully aware that a flea landing on a dog is like a sonic boom. Jeff Buckley, I love that one. I'm deeply moved by things. I'd hate to miss the intense joy of that. Elaine Aron, who is the woman that started that study on sensitivity, I think. Your beauty is in your sensitivity. Don't let anyone take it from you. Yasmin Magahed. Why is sensitivity something to strive for?
Insensitivity.
Oh, thank you. That would have completely blown the quote. She keeps me on my toes. Why is insensitivity something to strive for? I happen to know that my sensitivity is my strength. It's helped me navigate through a very difficult path in my life. Hannah Gadsby. Sensitive people never like the fatigue of justifying their instincts. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
I had to read it several times. Sensitive people never like the fatigue of justifying their instincts. Harriet Beecher Stowe. We cannot be more sensitive to pleasure without being more sensitive to pain. Alan Watts. You can only understand people if you feel them in yourself. John Steinbeck. When a good man is hurt, all who would be called good must suffer with him. Euripides. The sensitive suffer more, but they love more and dream more. Augusto Curry. Sensitive people either love deeply or they regret deeply. There's really no middle ground because they live in passionate extremes. Shannon L. Adler. Manners are a sensitive awareness of the feelings of others. If you have that awareness, you have good manners, no matter what fork you use. Emily Post. Peace of mind for 5 minutes. That's what I crave. Alanis Morissette. The truly creative mind in any field is no more than this: a human creature born abnormally, inhumanly sensitive. Pearl Buck. His heart was like a sensitive plant that opens for a moment in the sunshine, but curls up and shrinks into itself at the slightest touch of the finger or the lightest breath of wind. Anne Bronte. Interesting. We have those plants in Florida. They're called sensitive plants. They look almost like a little short fern kind of thing with a lot of little leaves. And they're really beautiful. And you wouldn't know until you reach out your finger and stroke it, and they just close up. Then they open back up again, but they're so sensitive, and they're called sensitive plants.
Huh.
Okay, here we go. Tristan. Hi, Tristan. Tristan has several questions here. First, my question is about Kundalini awakening. And why do bad things happen to people after an awakening? Well, they don't always. They don't usually. Bad things can happen to someone after spiritual awakening. Bad things can happen to a person after
No awakening.
God realization. Bad things happen to people that aren't awakened, yes, but there's been, especially in decades past, there was always a caution. Be careful about awakening Kundalini. And for those of you who don't know what that is, Kundalini is a divine feminine energy that resides in the root chakra and contains the potential for dramatic transformation on every level of our being. And ordinarily, it slumbers in the root chakra. It can be awakened. It can be awakened through yoga, through pranayama. If you're into the Taoist tradition, Negong, internal alchemy, tantric practices. I know someone that fell off a ladder on their tailbone and their Kundalini got awakened. I know somebody else that got struck by lightning and that awakened their Kundalini. It can happen dancing, it can happen accidentally. When it's the most powerful, in my experience, it's when it happens in someone who is seeking divine union, who's seeking liberation, and that energy is awakened. Until recent years, I'd say really starting heavily in the 1960s, the only people that experienced that thunder in the loins, if you will, were fighters and erotic lovers. People experienced the electricity and the fire of Kundalini during sex and during warfare, fighting for their lives. Well, it's been changing dramatically. In recent years, most people I'm aware of on the spiritual journey have experienced a degree of Kundalini awakening, and it used to be kind of rare. And there was always that red flag, oh no. Why? Well, some people become very ungrounded. With all that rising energy they're not used to, they don't feel their roots in the earth until they adjust. There's that. That Kundalini energy activates the 7 major chakras as it rises to the crown chakra on its path to divine union. And when it awakens in a chakra, it releases great stuff. Every chakra has these amazing dormant abilities that have been slumbering in humanity for ages. There's also all the junk. We have a lot of suppressed, repressed material stuff that came from previous trauma in our lives stored, especially in the first 3 lower chakras. And when the Kundalini energy hits those and they begin to open and release and clear, a lot of that unconscious material surrounding insecurity, surrounding lack in our lives, surrounding feelings of sensory disconnection on a sexual level or just on an affection level with other people, and pleasure, connection with nature. A lot of us have so many blocks in those areas. The 3rd chakra is about power and control, and who hasn't had issues with feeling out of control? When it comes to our personal lives, we all want a measure of control. We all have like that much, actually. So that can be very difficult. Plus, all of these abilities are awakening if it rises the Kundalini into the 3rd eye, the 6th chakra, and it opens. That opens the door to mystic vision, which can be wonderful. People have been talking to me recently about seeing the eye of God or seeing the blue pearl right there before their closed eyes. Nice, but you could see a bunch of other stuff that you might not be ready to be seeing into the spirit world or into the astral plane, things like that. But first of all, let's erase the idea that bad things happen to people after awakening. You may have heard of that, but it's more and more rare. I'm amazed.
Kundalini awakening.
Kundalini awakening, right. We're not talking about spiritual awakening in general. I've been working with Kundalini awakening for well over 50 years, both within myself and in helping to awaken other people's Kundalini and guide it. I think it's best to have expert help, a master teacher who understands Kundalini and can see if you're getting off course in any way and help bring it back on center and give you spiritual practices that help with that unfolding. Feels like you might have something to share.
Oh, go ahead and finish.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we could teach a whole course on just this question. But if something bad happens to someone after a Kundalini awakening, it's generally because they're blocked, have been blocked, and the Kundalini is like working to free that and release that block in them, to free traumatic debris from past karma and previous life experiences, certainly karma. But whatever's going on in your life, if Kundalini's turned on, everything gets turned up. What I just said about a sensitive person. To a sensitive person, a flea landing on a dog is like a sonic boom. And Kundalini can make your senses very acute. You would feel things, see things, hear things that you weren't hearing before, or seeing, or feeling before. And that's a challenge. But so is all growth, so is all expansion of consciousness. I think it's well worth it. And really it's under divine control. The best thing for Kundalini is to not, I think, try to make it awaken. It's to seek balance, to seek harmony with the Tao, to seek harmony with the divine, and just let the presence deal with all of that. And if you need Kundalini in your journey, let the divine awaken it and guide it in you. The divine is more than willing.
I think sometimes too it's helpful to rephrase bad things. If we look at things as bad things and it's because of the Kundalini or it's because of this or because of that, we're not quite taking responsibility for our inner process and our inner work. So like Michael said, if things are getting out of balance or feeling wacky, it's most oftentimes due to a block in the flow of Kundalini energy. But those blocks are created from our resistance to experiencing fully some traumatic events in our lives, some hurts, some wounds, some insecurities. So you might want to take a deeper dive into what kind of bad things are happening that are trying to open your eyes even more so that obstacle doesn't have to keep repeating in your life. And so take a look at what those things are that are uncomfortable for you, and then you can narrow it down to which chakra you need to pay more attention to and ask for more grace for healing. And like Michael said too, it's not usually good to force this kind of spiritual growth, because we can experience awakenings or Kundalini or big spiritual experiences if we're really, really pushing and we're trying to do it out of our will, not in the divine order of things. That's not to say don't do spiritual practices, but if we're really pushing from our ego and our sense of our small self, not our bigger self, then that's when things get out of kilter, because the divine doesn't give us more than what we can handle at any given moment. And so it may feel like the divine is just dumping stuff on you, and it's actually because you're pushing forward on something that's not in balance and in harmony with yourself and your environment.
So, well said. So rather than talk about bad things, let's talk about challenging or difficult things can be brought up by the awakening of Kundalini. I mean, it can feel like 1,000,000 volts going through your being. It can feel like lightning going through you. And actually, it's pretty exciting stuff. An example, when my Kundalini was first awakened, I couldn't really sleep for about 6 weeks. Longer, actually. For months, I could barely sleep. But for 6 weeks, I couldn't sleep at all. And I had to travel during that period, and I was so sensitive, and I couldn't sleep. And I checked into a motel. I had to for a night, and I could hear everything going on in every room in that motel, which made it a whole lot worse than not being able to sleep. You know? Some people have described feeling like shakes. May feel shaking just because you're not used to that much energy going through your body. So relax. And there are spiritual teachers that are very qualified to help smooth that awakening and help you. So if you have more questions, you can reach out to me directly. So Tristan asks next, why can you give I Diksha and some others can't? Okay, Diksha is a Sanskrit word that means blessing. So we're calling it the flowering heart blessing. It's Hridaya Vikasa Diksha, a certain kind, but any transmission of divine grace could be defined as Diksha in the Sanskrit Vedic tradition. So there are different kinds of Diksha. There's Diksha through touch. There's Diksha at a different distance through prayer or holding an intent. We mentioned about the laying on of hands through touch. There's I blessing. And why can some do it and others can't? Most simply, it's probably got to do with the level of spiritual development. Having said that, when I first became someone that gave powerful blessing through the eyes, we were spending time in India with a very well-known spiritual teacher, a couple spiritual teachers, and they said, because people asked them, how come he gets to do it and she gets to do it, but nobody else sitting here gets to do it? And they said, we don't know. I can tell you this, they said, we don't know. Why? Why are some people called to be teachers and others aren't? Why are some people called to be healers and others aren't? The Paramatma, the explanation in the Paramatma, which is the God within, the divine of humanity, chooses our ministries, our missions, the stuff that we do for the common good. Some people are chosen by the divine. There are a lot of psychic and spiritual schools that do this thing where they stare into each other's eyes for long periods of time. That's not what we're talking about with the light blessing. This is where divine light is just pouring through the one who's giving that eye blessing out of their eyes into the eyes of the person receiving and right into their hearts. We didn't ask for it. So we're responding, to the call of the divine.
And I was never activated or initiated by any guru or master teacher. Michael and I switched gears to the flowering heart path, and about a year afterwards, I felt the calling from the divine. I told Michael, I said, I'm ready to do this with you. Mm-hmm. And I've had encounters with other people just in normal conversation where I feel blessing coming from their eyes. If your heart is really open and you have the capacity and sensitivity and compassion to feel with the other person, light does come out of your eyes. And so it's a very deep personal thing between you and the divine. Sometimes when we're doing this on Monday nights, I can feel other people's gazes coming back at me, and it's very warming and very nice and very nurturing. So it's not like you can do it and this other person can't. Like Michael said, it's more of a calling and more of our capacity of sensitivity and compassion, and to feel through it.
One of the reasons I heard through the years that not everybody should do something like that is because at a certain state of development, you could actually transfer karma. And we don't want to do that. We're not doing anything. See, if we were doing something, the self would be involved, but it's all the divine. And it's just light. And there's no karma being transferred or junk. which I saw in other spiritual groups. They would do it on purpose because staring into each other's eyes, they felt like they were burning off the karma and the impurities. Follow your teacher and the teachings that are being given to you, but the eye blessing, the light blessing through the eyes is something very pure, and I've never seen any harm come through it at all. It's a very powerful tool. Okay, Tristan then asks, have you ever seen an archangel in its eye belt form mentioned in the Bible? And where did this angel with feathers and white clothes come from? Well, I don't know what you mean by eye belt, because that word doesn't appear in the Bible. But Ezekiel saw a wheel within a wheel, with eyes all around. If that's what you're talking about, these were spiritual vehicles, if you will, that the souls or the spirits of the angels that Ezekiel was observing, they traveled interdimensionally and through space in these wheels. Some people think they're flying saucers of a type, but they're spinning wheels within wheels, with eyes all around, and the spirit of the angels traveled within them. So, yeah, have I ever seen? I've seen a lot of things. That particular thing that Ezekiel saw, I can't say that I've seen it. I've seen something similar to that, but I don't know what the beings were in them, so I can't say. I mean, there are some motherships that look like that, which is why people think that Ezekiel saw very high beings traveling in interdimensional saucer-type vehicles. I don't know. And you say, where does this angel with feathers and white robes come from? There's only one place angels come from, and that is the divine. Angels, an angel, its very name means messenger. An angel is a messenger of the divine intent, purpose, and will, and information. They go directly out from the divine and directly back to the divine. And so if it was an authentic angel with feathers and white clothes, I mean, there are lots of them that are described as having bright white clothing and bright white auras, and some of them are described as having wings. Seraphim have 6 wings. Cherubim have 4 wings, but it never said they had feathers. So there's more room for thought on that. But yeah, genuine angels come from the divine. And there are many things going on today. I just keep your heart open and ask the divine, what's that? And there's a great old song about Ezekiel saw a wheel within a wheel. The big wheel stood, the little ring stood for faith. The big ring was the grace of God. Anyway, very cool symbolic stuff. But see, the major prophets, the visions that they had and still have are inspired by spirit, but they may be metaphorical or allegorical or symbolic. Just saying. Michael Christopher then asks, how does one do inner child work to heal the wounds of the past?
I'd have to save that one for next week.
Well, I mean, you've done some of that work with us, but to heal the inner child, the wounds of the inner child, in a safe, healing space, those buried traumas need to be allowed to come to the surface and release. And there are processes aimed at helping to bring that about. Some holotropic breath work does a very good job of bringing up emotional trauma in the inner child from the wounds of the past. There are processes that we take people through that you know about, Michael, the relationship healing process, which we don't have time to get into here, but we often do that in our 2 or 3 day retreats, because it's a very important piece of the inner work, is to release this buried, sometimes this trauma is so buried so deep, we don't even know it's there. Because it happened before we have any conscious memory. It may have happened in our first 6 years of life. It is important to bring it up and clear it. And prayer helps. There are people with special ministries of healing. And the wounds that they're anointed to heal are specifically the wounds of the inner child, as opposed to healing a broken arm or cancer or something like that. So we could talk more about that for sure. It's an important process, and there are many tools available to work with that. But basically, it's a safe, nurturing, loving place where the inner child is able to open up and feel and share the pain of what has happened. And in the opening up to it, the facing it, and the sharing it and expressing it, it discharges and releases. It's a very profound work. Namaste, Moreya. What is this? And Michael Christopher wrote, check your DM, dear.
DM?
What is DM, dear? Who's the dear you're talking to? And check what? It would help understand what you're talking about. Okay. Or Divine Faith said that to Michael Christopher. Check your DM, dear. Well, we need more explanation, Divine Faith, on what you meant by that. Venkat Subramanian. Venkat! Nice to see you, dear friend. It's been a long time. Venkat says, how do I use Kundalini energy to control overeating due to stress? Well, I don't know that you would use Kundalini energy per se, but look, meditation and other practices that release stress will tend to curb that overeating. If you have a good Kundalini yoga practice, the energy that gives you can allay hunger. One of the first things I learned when my Kundalini was awakened, my master said, you can go longer without sleep and longer without food now than you could before because you have another source of energy in your body. So you don't use Kundalini, but in stirring it in a healthy way, in a balanced way, that energy can nourish you so you're not starving. I heard a Christian teacher years ago who was a charismatic Pentecostal, and she said, if you're overweight and you're like compulsively eating, before you eat, yes, thank God for your food and all that, but just look up and drink in the white light that's pouring down on you. Because there's an empty place inside you're trying to fill with food. This is much easier than trying to use Kundalini for it. Just turn to the presence and invoke the presence and just spend a few minutes drinking in the nurturing love and grace of the presence, and then eat your food.
That's what I was going to say too. Oh. It's like if we're stressed, that means that we're coming from the mind and the ego. And if we're in our hearts and connected to the divine presence, then there's this sense of peace and harmony and balance, and that helps counterbalance the chaos and the clutter of the stress. So I think the best way to be able to address that issue would be to connect with the divine presence, and like Michael said, just drink it in, but also start kind of training yourself spiritually to have that as your go-to whenever you feel like you're on the outside of the eye of the hurricane, and if things are stressing you out, regather and go back into your center and into your heart.
Okay.
Okay.
So they've been messaging back and forth here.
What was DM?
Michael Christopher and Divine Faith. And
What was DM?
direct message. Check your messages.
Oh, okay.
Or the direct message that I just gave you here. It's sometimes a trick to open up the replies to these messages people leave in the chat. But there it goes. And both of you could communicate with each other directly through Facebook Messenger if there's any further clarification that needs to take place. Okay. Well, I think that's it.
Okay.
Plus, oh my gosh, look
It's
what
late.
time it is. Okay. Well, would you please, oh, and I didn't ask you earlier, but you've been doing it and I appreciate it. Give us a like or a love if you're on Facebook Live, a thumbs up or a heart. We go in at the end, see your name, send you special love and blessings. If you're watching on Vimeo, you need to write something in the chat. You could do that and just let us know you were there, and same thing. Love to see your name and love to send you special blessings. So close your eyes and invoke the Divine Presence. And just let it fill you. The Divine Presence is pure unconditional love. It means only good for you. It is all-knowing and all-wise. It knows more of your faults and more of your quirks than you'll ever be conscious of. It knows what you're going to do next year, and it loves you anyway, unconditionally. And the Divine yearns to free you from the suffering of separation and bring you into the full light of divine union. And this is a gift of grace. Just drink it in, soak it up, breathe it in, the light of the Flowering Heart blessing, to awaken you to your true connection to your inner divine, to oneness with all that is. Let it heal your soul of painful thoughts and emotions and programming, and fill you with inspired ideas and thoughts. Let it radiate out from the center of your being through your spirit, your soul, into your physical body to bring healing. The divine is our great healer, and nothing is impossible. It will shine out into your relationships and make them right and bring healing to them as well. Shine out through you into the world, making you a lighthouse of grace, rippling out to all the world. There's no need to beg, there's no need to try to earn it, or just receive, just as you are. The Presence knows how to free you and transform you and flood you with grace and give you exactly what you need. Just drink it in. Just keep breathing it in. Keep receiving it and soaking it in. The light, the life, the grace is pouring out to you right now. your eyes still closed, lift up your hands with your palms open, facing forward, and let us invite the divine to pour the blessing through every one of us to all the others in the satsang. Just let the divine flow the flowering heart blessing through you to all the others in the satsang. You don't need to know how, you don't need to do anything except consent. The divine does it. Now you can relax your hands. And when you're ready, you could open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and or me. Just keep looking, gazing at least one of our eyes. And the light begins to stream through our being, through our eyes, in through your eyes into your heart, causing the divine love in you, the divine light to burn and shine brighter and brighter within you. There's nothing to do but just keep looking and receiving. close your eyes now. Meditate with us for a few more moments as the grace settles with you. Now keep meditating as long as you want to, and or find a place to lie in Shavasana. That's a yoga pose, very simple. Just find a comfortable spot to lie on your back. With your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides with your palms open, turned upward, and just dissolve in the presence in gratitude.
Much love, light, and blessings.
We love you so much. And we want you to know that the divine in us beholds the divine in you. And we bow to you. Namaste.
Namaste.